I'm just going to ask and see if we're ready to go. Miss City Secretary, you have everything you need?
Yes, Mayor.
Miss Wolbach in the back, are you good, and are we streaming? Okay. Mr. City Manager, how are you doing today?
Doing good, thank you.
All right. Nothing on your end, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. We will recognize a quorum here today. Go ahead and call ourselves to order. This Friday, March 27th at 2 p.m. We're going to go ahead and open up the meeting by taking public comment. Do I have anyone here today that would like to offer public comment? Okay, I don't see anyone here. So we'll close public comment. We're going to move into our non-consent agenda. We have CLA, Clifton Larson Allen, our audit company here, and that is Scott Kirschnack. And so, Scott, we've got you up. We can see you on the screen. I know you can't see us, but you can hear us fine.
I can hear you just fine. Yes.
Great. Well, today's kind of a working meeting with the one item, and so we're already rolling pretty good. And if we can, we just wanted to hand it over to you and let you take. We've got some council members here that have not seen the document. So I guess let me back up. Let me back up a half a step. We are missing Councilman Prescott. He's blessed and favored today to welcome his grandson into the world, and so he will be. He'll be getting his first grandson here today. So he is at the hospital with his daughter, I believe. So he won't be here. But then Councilman Prescott and myself sit on the audit committee, and we met with you guys. Was it last Thursday? And so we saw a draft of what you'd presented, but not this draft. And so the other council members got your email last night, but really haven't seen the hard copy until today. So what I would find very helpful is just to allow you to kind of do what you did in the audit committee and go through an overview and hit the highlights, be able to walk us through it. Tell us a little bit more about your scope of work, what you were doing, what you did. And then I would love it if council has any questions, we can let them ask you questions, or we have our finance officers here, finance staff. So Mrs. Owens could answer any questions as well. So if we can, we're going to hand the meeting over to you for a minute, sir.
Mayor, before we do that, I just want to get a little bit of clarity on what our mission is today and kind of what we're doing, because I know there's been a lot of work on staff's part as well as our auditing firm. But my understanding is, I mean, the reason we're here today is the law requires us to file this ACFR within 180 days of the closing of the fiscal year, which is that deadline is coming up. And so if that's correct, I think that's why we're here. I'm comfortable moving forward with the filing of the draft. That said, as you said, we just received this yesterday, and it's long. It's 342 pages, I think. It's an important report. And so what I want to, filing of the draft to meet the deadline, I think is great. I don't think it makes sense for us to try to have some type of full discussion about this without time to review it. And I guess also time to review a final version of it. And I guess that would be on the meeting of the 14th. And again, I'm also aware that some members of council have had conversations with the auditor, others have not. I think it's important to have everyone to kind of have an opportunity to review the report and ask those questions so we're all caught up at the same speed, because I think just because of the way it works with the audit committee, a couple of you are kind of ahead of the three of us. And then also, just given that this is a special Friday afternoon meeting where most people are doing other things, there's limited public visibility. I think having a robust discussion at a regular meeting provides kind of a much higher level of transparency. And then in addition, Councilman Prescott has other issues today, not here. If we're going to go in deep, I think it's good for all of us here. So I support the filing of the draft to meet the requirement, but I would hope that we would just hold off on really digging in the detailed discussions until we have a chance to review it, ask our questions, and then we're all kind of up to speed on it. So I just want to get clarity on what our mission was today.
Well, I think that's great, Councilman Simpson. So let's go back and kind of retrack what we had hoped we would have. And so let me start by giving somewhat of an explanation, and you could, Ms. Katrina, you can lend to this. We hired a new audit company this last year, so this is his first year with us, which there's pros and cons to that. The pro to that is we've got a fresh set of eyes. We're looking at everything again. It may bring some things to light that we had gotten into habits and things that we weren't necessarily paying as close attention to. We have an expert here as a senior that can speak to many things from his firm as to what's normal and what's not. So I think in hiring CLA, and then also you transitioned to a new accounting software. And so we know that you've had some struggles. I think the public's heard that not everything migrated over. And so what we would have liked is we would have loved to have had this draft 2-3 weeks ago. And then we could have had some of these discussions, and then we could have all sat down and had a robust discussion with Mr. Kirschnack at that time. Now, what I would say is we're able to do that on April 14th, and I agree with my councilman over here. We want everybody to come prepared. We want everybody to be able to speak to things. We want to take the time it's going to take in that regular meeting. But we've also scheduled a special meeting here today. We have him here with us. We've got the document, and I find it a very good use of time to allow him to walk us through it, give us an overview, allow us as council to maybe bring up some questions and some things that we're still learning and trying to figure out. What does this mean when it says restricted or unrestricted? Where is this held? Where is that in the document? Can we see this? Did you do that? That way, as you guys reach out to Mr. Kirschnack in the future or next week or whatever, as you're reviewing your documents, thank you. I see you over there. Then you guys are listening. And the other thing that I want to make sure we don't forget, Councilman Simpson, even though I get to sit on the audit committee, it's the general public that we want them to be able to understand what the audit procedure is, understand what the audit document is. If they go and look at this online, they enjoy engaging. They want to listen. We have people that not only are here regular, but they watch online. And so I just think we've all taken the time to be here today. So I would like to take an hour to 2 hours and go through this. I don't want to sit down with our public being noticed that we're doing something here and give the not illusion, but give the insinuation that we just grab something and put it on the shelf. We're explaining it very well that we're just going to receipt it here and file it in the city secretary's office. But with Scott on the line here, I think it'd be great to at least let him take us through it. And I know I learned a great deal in the audit committee, just in the 2 hours that we had together. And I would like to allow our other council members to really hear and listen, learn as much, glean as much here today as possible. Totally agree with you. This is not going to substitute that conversation on the 14th. Still want to have the full conversation on the 14th, but let's learn everything we can here today.
Great. Well, I've got, if we're going to look at that, and if we're going to take a vote on it to file it again, not approve it, I've got about an hour, and then I've got another conflict that I've got to attend to after that. So
okay.
If we need to, that would still leave a quorum. I don't know how we want to handle that, but
I know we have a quorum, so the three of us can get it filed if conversations are extended. So we don't want to delay you from your other obligations, but appreciate you being here for the time that you have allowed. And who knows, we may have a more brief discussion than what we think.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, Mr. Kirschnack, if we can hand it over to you, we'll let you run with it.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Stanley. And I did want to offer my contact information to all of the council members. I know, Mayor Stanley, you have that, which includes my cell phone number, direct line here at the office, as well as email. So I know this document was just received last night in PDF form, and a printed version was just supplied today. And obviously it's a large document there was not sufficient time to go through the document and formulate questions, but as you're going through this draft document and you have any questions that you want to ask of me, I'm just offering that if Mayor Stanley could share my contact information with the entire city council, please feel free to contact me at any point to ask any questions you may have.
That's greatly appreciated. I've shared it with the council, but can gladly send it again if anybody needs it.
Okay. And again, this is a draft of the annual comprehensive financial report for the period October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. Keyword there, it is a draft, and you can probably see, as noted throughout the document, a watermark stamp that says draft subject to changes. So this is a document that could have some changes. Those changes could come as a result of city council questions. We looked into this further, and we may have to regroup something, or the amounts could change. So keep in mind, this is a document that is open to any changes the city council may have if those changes are warranted, if you will. And just a little report on the audit itself. As Mayor Stanley had mentioned, this is the first year for Clifton Larson Allen, commonly referred to as CLA, to perform the audit. And again, I thank the city of Amarillo for the opportunity to serve as your independent auditors. And again, this is a draft. We would have hoped that at this point it would be a final signed document from CLA to the city. That's what we are aiming for in future years. This being the first year, there is a learning curve from CLA learning the city of Amarillo. But I think the biggest part of this being a draft at this stage, as opposed to a final, was the city went through a major ERP conversion or software conversion this year, which took a lot of time. And Katrina, if you're there, you could probably interject on this to fully understand the various types of reports and groupings that come out of that system as they relate to a trial balance and reports and groupings to tie into this annual comprehensive financial report. Katrina, do you have any further comments on that? That was the major reason for the this being a draft as opposed to a final document at this point.
Yes, I will add that when you have a new system, and it's a fantastic system, there are a lot of canned reports that don't actually give you what you want. Thankfully, we had hired consultants to help us build reports, so we were actually able to expedite the needs for the auditor, but many of the items needed had to be programmed and written to handle the needs for the audit.
And thank you, Katrina. And I did want to add at this point, I want to thank Katrina and the entire finance department, as well as Neil Gerber in the internal audit department, for their commitment to this audit to get it to where we are right now. I know it's countless hours, overtime hours, that have been invested not only by city staff, but as well as CLA staff. So I just want to commend the city of Amarillo as a whole, the staff, for the level of effort they put forth to get this document to this stage where we are today. And Another thing I did want to mention, when the final document is issued, there will be a signed independent auditor's report in that document with Clifton Larson Allen's signature on it. It will be on CLA letterhead, and that independent auditor's report will we will render an unmodified opinion, which in common terms is referred to as a clean opinion, that the financial statements as presented upon final issuance are materially correct in all respects in relation to generally accepted accounting principles. So that is forthcoming with the final signed document, that you will receive an unmodified or clean opinion on these financial statements. And again, this is a very large document, probably a good place to start, council members, as you are going through this document to review and formulate questions, is to really start at the table of contents, and that could steer you to sections of this document where you may want to begin. And it is broken down between your basic financial statements, which include the statement of net position and the statement of activities, which represent the full accrual basis of accounting for the city of Amarillo. Behind that are your fund financial statements, which includes governmental funds, which are accounted for on a modified accrual basis of accounting, as well as your enterprise funds, which are on the full accrual basis of accounting. This document also includes component units of the city of Amarillo, such as the Amarillo Hospital District, the Amarillo Economic Development Corporation, and so forth. Due to accounting standards and principles and governance structure and so forth, it has been determined that those component units are part of the reporting entity of the city of Amarillo. So those are included in here. And Clifton Larson Allen not only audited the city of Amarillo, we also audited the component units as well. And there is a page in here that has a listing of the component units. Those component units were audited by Clifton Larson Allen with separate financial statements to be issued, with the exception of a couple of those. I'm trying to get to the actual page of that. If you could bear with me, the component units actually begin on page 42, and there will be separately issued financial statements for the Amarillo Hospital District, the Economic Development Corp., the Potter Events Venue District. One thing that's on here is the Amarillo Convention and Visitors Bureau. There was a change effective October 1st, 2024, where the city of Amarillo no longer serves as the fiscal agent for that organization. That is why you see bureaus in that column. The Housing Finance Corporation and Health Facilities Corporation, two smaller entities, those will not have separately issued audited financial statements, but the local government corporation will also have a set of separately issued financial statements. I just wanted to point out that because this is a comprehensive document and it includes component units of the city of Amarillo in addition to the city itself. And then the notes to the financial statements that actually begin on page 45, these notes provide much more detail of certain of the line items within the basic financial statements. There are actually a lot of notes in here that have very good information. I wanted to point some of those notes out to City Council as one of those is note 3, your deposits and investments. That begins on page 63. And this gives a discussion of the deposits and investments and culminates on page 65 with a table to show a summary of investment securities of the city September 30th, 2025. And I had a meeting with Mayor Stanley actually prior to this meeting, and one of the things we discussed is he had an investment portfolio listing as of September 30th, 2025, which showed a certain dollar amount, and there was a question from him, which is a very good question, on how that statement can be reconciled to the various amounts that are in the annual comprehensive financial report. That may be a homework assignment between Katrina and her group and Clifton Larson Allen to bridge that gap for you, Mayor Stanley. But if you would like for us to take on that endeavor, just let us know.
So, Scott, I appreciate that, and we'll pause here for a quick stop. Let me make sure that with council, there's several things that this ACFR does. It brings you to the place of actuals. It puts things in different categories. It helps you understand some things. So when we get different, you guys are familiar, you get the quarterly investment or holdings report. They send you that every quarter to show you these are all the CEDARs, these are the fidelities, this is your cash and cash equivalents. You guys should be reviewing that every quarter to kind of see the financial health of the city, and that's where those monies are held. Not only the monies that I think we're borrowing, but then the monies that we have set aside for cash to go and do CIP, right? Jump in anytime, Katrina. But in that, I wanted to make sure that I'm understanding that quarterly investment report correctly, so that we can get that broken down, so we can see here's how much we have committed, here's how much we have restricted, like a bond that's restricted to sewer and water, and then here's how much we have that's unrestricted just in cash, so that we could get a secondary look, not just a budget once a year, but a secondary look that matches the ACFR, so that at the end of the year 25, we know how much cash did we have that we needed for reserves. But then how much cash did we have that exceeded reserves that we could apply to CIP? And that's going to be an important component as we work through the CIP closeout projects, because they should reconcile. As you close out those projects, if you didn't spend the money, you're going to see it sitting over there in perhaps a CEDAR or certificate of deposit, a fidelity. Ms. Owens, do you have anything to add to that?
I will say I told you last week during the audit committee that your 9/30/25 presentation that was presented to you earlier did change for the ACFR. There was some interest that was in accrued interest. We originally had it on that report at cost, and the auditors wanted that at market. So we had increased that report by $2 million and plus. So it will tie to an updated quarterly report once I get time to get that done.
I know you guys do speak accountant, and so make sure that we're hearing where the interest earnings increased by $2+ million for the year.
On 2 CDs, yes.
On 2 CDs.
It was just in a different bucket. It was in accrued interest, and it was in earnings on the income statement, and we just took it from accrued interest and put it up into investments.
Okay, and that's a great example. So CLA might have brought that to you
Right.
in comparing the two different balances.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you guys go back and you look and you go, oh yeah, that's correct, but we had it in the wrong bucket.
Right,
And so you've now recognized it over in the right bucket.
right. And we
Now-
will follow that practice going forward.
That's great. Now, how does council, treat that in like when you bring that back to council? Since we balance the budget and we have a current budget that we're working within, do we identify that $2 million as additional $2 million that we need to account for?
It was in interest earnings on the income side. You don't have a budget on your balance sheet. And so in your income side, it was already represented and reported to you.
Okay, so the total revenues as income
Right.
recognized it.
Right.
You just didn't have it appropriate or,
On the
let's say,
balance sheet.
itemized.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you. Scott, anything you want to add to any of that, or I'm going to step back out of the way and let you keep running through this?
I would just want to add, Mayor Stanley, if you would still want to see some type of reconciliation between the investment holdings report to see how that report ties to the amounts that are presented in the ACFR, just let us know, and we will work with Katrina to come up with a reconciliation for you, that if you still desire to see that.
Yes, sir. I think that Ms. Owens has been familiar with this report, and I've requested the breakdown. So at one point, we had debt reserves, and we had itemized the debt reserves, the need of the amount of money we held off to the side in order to meet those minimum debt reserves. It was roughly $23.8 million at that time. We now have, I guess, what would it be, page... I don't know. What page would it be there, Scott, that itemized those debt reserves? It shows roughly, yeah, flip over to page 68. So revenue bond reserve, water and sewer system. Am I correct in my understanding that the only bond that requires a debt reserve would be a water and sewer bond now?
Well, I will actually defer that question to Ms. Owens.
I'm going to have to
Yeah.
make sure, because I'm just going to have to double check to make sure that that's correct.
Okay, so we could double check that with Stephen Adams,
Yes.
I'm sure, and so he was the one that had educated me on that. I think the laws had changed a little bit, but we had restricted in that report, so your quarterly investment report had restricted and identified $23.8 million at that point in time, and said that's not money that we can utilize as a city to go and fix anything or take care of anything. We have to hold that until these bonds are paid off, because that's the legal requirement. He had come back and said, well, no, that's not true. It's actually $4.3 million. And so on page 68 right here, if you look there, it'll come down, and I just want CLA's confirmation that I'm reading this correct. Revenue bond reserve, that's how much we should have that we need to restrict and not appropriate out of that fund, correct?
That's correct. As kind of the paragraph above the table, I'm just reading from it, as required by bond indentures. And then it goes into that language there, and for the water and sewer system, as required by bond indentures, there's a revenue bond reserve of $4,304,568 at September 30, 2025.
So what I would ask, Ms. Owens, if you would, on behalf of council, get us a end of year 9/30 of 25 itemized investment holdings report. So if you look back at that report, it roughly held $585 million in it. And so you've done a good job of going through and you itemize, well, these are the borrowed monies that are restricted, so they're bonded. You have to spend them on those projects. And then you've got minimum reserves that you have to have. And then we had a few other things in there. If we could have CLA validate, verify that we're looking at all that correct, council would like to see that quarterly investment report identify all cash equivalents that are unrestricted at the end of that year. That way we would know, are we holding more money in reserve than what we should be? Because that represents more projects we could go get to.
I understand, and it's to be worked. I just hadn't had time to get to it.
I know it, and I know this will take a little bit more work, and so let's take it one at a time, but I would like for council, unless, Councilman?
Katrina, are those reserves not automatically rebalanced? I mean, according to the percentage and according to our financial policy, are those not automatically rebalanced?
They are. The investment quarterly will let you see what's remaining out of you once you take the debt out and all of the obligations. It'll let you see on the quarterly basis.
So if they are in excess, those should be moved automatically, correct?
Well, your reserves versus cash. Cash is
Right.
going to stay in the cash accounts. Reserves are, you're going to be allowed to, when we come back for CIP discussions, have discussions of what you would like to do with that.
Okay, but I guess what I'm asking is, are those not automatically moved? Once they go above the minimum reserve?
It just stays where it's at. It just stays in cash. It just stays in
Until-
the fund. And then we come in and say, here's your excess. It doesn't move on the balance sheet.
Once a year?
Right. And we
So-
just tell you what
so
those
those
numbers are.
accrue, they're invested. Those accrue interest, and then once a year you come to us and say, hey, reserves are 4.3 million. We've got 5 million in here. We've got $700,000. We need to move to
right.
CIP.
And it just stays there, and then we start executing capital projects and all of that, and then it goes to cash, and you start spending it.
Okay, so what are you asking for?
So, Councilman, let me make sure we're explaining it well. You asked a really intelligent question, but it doesn't work the way that we have to work. So nothing can be automatically moved, right? Nothing gets moved unless you appropriate it. And that happens with your vote. And so staff does a good job of identifying the funding, identifying the need, bringing the need to council, and then that money can't match up to that need without your appropriation.
Right.
And you can only do that once a year.
Right.
Well, I shouldn't say once a year. You can only do that annually. You can come back to it and amend it as many times as we would call a meeting. But so in us identifying excess reserves, which we did in the last council meeting, we brought in roughly $19 million more than we had anticipated. And so you identified, after you netted out some overages, some cost overruns, $13.5–14 million. Those monies don't automatically adjust. They don't automatically move. There's no such thing as a rebalancing. There is an appropriations, though, and that's the step that I want to make sure we're doing here. If we don't know that the excess reserve exists, then we can't appropriate it. And it's not being balanced at the end of the year with a look back. It's only being balanced at the end of the year with the budget. Am I saying that right, Mrs. Owens?
I need more information of what it is you're saying.
Sure.
I think what Councilmember Tips is saying, at least if I'm understanding, is we will, as part of the automatic process of the budget, we will do the rebalancing process as part of the budget process. And if there is indeed excess reserve in any of the funds, that will be brought back to the council for appropriation in the next fiscal year.
Right.
So, yeah, that process is part of our automatic process. Yeah, it's not an automatic, there's a software thing,
Right.
but yeah, I think what you're saying is that we've already got a process already established in our calendar year that this summer we will rebalance following this audit and bring back to you all the excess for any one of those funds to be identified or appropriated for reserve for the next fiscal year.
And what I'm asking for, let me simplify it. I'm asking for a simple double check. It's an easy reconciliation of accounts. It's like me bringing you a report on your job, but then also showing you your balance in your checkbook, right? So, I mean, though I have the report here in the form of the budget and, well, we ran this, we ran that, this reconciliation process works with these quarterly investments because those holdings represent all the monies held within the COA.
Right, at 9/30 of 25.
So if you're holding $585 million and you run everything and you look back and you go, well, technically we should only be, including our reserves, holding $550 million. Well, then you've identified $35 million of excess reserves and holdings. Now, how do we get there? Well, we have interest earnings that come back sometimes more beneficial than what we calculated. We have revenues that are over, or we go to maybe Unil's project of the CIP, the work in progress. So if we have a project that we closed out because couldn't get a right of way, couldn't get an easement, well, that money was appropriated and held over there in that holdings report, but then it just floats until it comes back to you. So this gives us a good check and balance.
And last year it was created for the 9/30/24, and so we will update it for 9/30/25, and we will get it to you.
Yes, thank you. And I have the report that you have that's semi-complete on the 9/30 of 25.
And that will update based on the interest on those two CDs.
That's great. And then you'll reconcile that with the ACFR,
Yes.
and CLA could review that. And then if
Yes.
we have questions, it allows for CLA to weigh in. We can learn through that together.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
So to be clear,
Yes.
this is already happening. Once a year, we're taking the excess reserves. You're coming to us saying this is how much we have. We're reappropriating. Yes?
During your budget.
So it's already being done.
Yeah.
You're asking for a second look along the way in the quarterly reports just to see where we are in the quarter?
Well,
I
let
mean,
me disagree.
it-
Let me disagree. This is not currently happening. So what you're saying, Councilman, is that once a year we get a budget and we have an itemized budget and we take all of our revenues less expenditures, we identify the excess over and above the minimum reserves, and we appropriate that to a capital project.
Correct.
That is happening.
Okay.
What we haven't been doing is going back to the ACFR and itemizing those monies that are held in that holdings account with our minimum reserves. Because the first time we did that was 9/30 of 24. And we identified several outstanding balances that we've never gone back and completed. And then in 9/30 of 25, we have that same look back. So I'm asking it to be done as a double check. It's not something that we are currently familiar with.
Now, we will have to only do that double check piece, the reconciliation piece. It can only be done once a year because of, like, your
Sure.
debt won't change. Now, your quarterly investment report will absolutely update, but the recon I can only do once a year, once we have final numbers.
Great. Well, I'm not asking for it to be like monthly or anything like that. I think it's a good tracking mechanism. And then, Scott, is there anything that I'm, saying in a way that's not easy to follow or that you could more greatly clarify?
No, I think Katrina and CLA both know exactly what you're looking for, and she can put that reconciliation together, and then CLA will look at that and see if we agree that that actually does in fact reconcile back to the ACFR, and then that can be presented to you and council.
Real good. Well, let me back up here and hand it back over to you, Scott, if you want to keep going on the other areas that
Okay.
you'd like to highlight.
The next major note to the financial statements actually is note 7, capital assets. That begins on page 70 of your ACFR. And this shows the capital asset activity, beginning of year, additions, deletions, and balances at the end of the year for the major capital asset categories. That being land, capital right-of-way easements, capital projects in process, or CIP, and then the items that are actually being depreciated, infrastructure, buildings, improvements, and so forth. And then there's accumulated depreciation for the items that are being depreciated. And this table actually goes on for 2 pages, and it's broken down between your governmental activities as well as your business type activities, which comprise your enterprise funds, water and sewer, and then drainage utility, as well as airport. So it's broken down between those 4 parts of the city of Amarillo. And just wanted to point out to council that when you look at the CIP, capital projects in process, A lot of times I refer to that as construction in progress. What these balances are going to represent is for ongoing projects at this point in time. That is the amount of expenditures that have been incurred on those ongoing projects that have not been placed into service and moved into their various line item categories, such as infrastructure and so forth. Those are only expenditures that have been incurred that have not been moved into their respective line item. That amount does not represent projects that are in process with a balance to complete. This only represents actual expenditures incurred that are sitting in construction in progress. I just wanted to point that out to City Council as you're looking through this document and maybe honing in on this note 7 that begins on page 70. Questions, Council, Mayor Stanley, on this actual note to the financial statements?
Questions, Council? No. So let's break it down. Once again, speaking accounting is a little different. So if you look at the table, balances off to the far right, those are ongoing projects. Can I say it that way?
Yes, that is correct. Ongoing projects for which that have balances for which expenditures have been incurred.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't
money spent, if you will, that have not been placed into service and then moved into their respective capital asset categories, such as infrastructure and so forth.
So, Council, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so, and again, that does not reflect remaining balances for ongoing projects to be spent. This just represents actual expenditures incurred to date as of September 30th, 2025.
So, Council, if you're hearing him say you've got projects that are closed out, they've been deleted, right? So those are your closed projects. That means they're moving them over to capital so they can depreciate them. They're capitalized, right? But then you have ongoing work in progress balance. That's just the amount that's been spent to date as of that date, not even today. So it gets a little more confusing. It doesn't represent the amount budgeted or allocated, right? So if we appropriated $1 million for a project X, and you'd spent $100,000, that 100 is going to show up over here. It's an ongoing project. You still have $900,000 left there. Now, when you close out that project, this is the tracking mechanism that we all want and need in your CIP work product, Unil. So let's say we spent $700 on that million and we closed the project out. We've now identified a $300,000 net savings. That's where you can't see that on this report. It's not as easy as just looking at it and going, oh, here's what I started with, here's what I've got left. These are actual costs that are backed up by receipts, and then they've been tested. So CLA has gone in and pulled several of your projects and tested to see, and I think even some of those came back as a journal entry, right? And you guys had to go back and get more invoices for them to be satisfied. So in what Unil is doing, gentlemen, it's different than what Scott did here. And so this is really good for us to be able to see what we've closed out every year. But we're going to have to get the CIP work product list to compare those projects to see which ones Unil can say, this is a closed project, here's how much money is remaining that was appropriated by, say, this council or a previous council. Those are the amounts of money that should be coming back to the council in that reconciliation. Those are the monies that are held in that quarterly investment report. So I think that this is a really good way for us to see this. So everybody understands the terminology of deletion versus work in progress. I think. Okay, Scott, thank you.
And thank you, Mayor. And one thing I did want to point out that may be beneficial when looking at Note 7 in the tables on pages 70 and 71, there is also another table that's on page 100 of this document that shows, it's a table at the very top of that, 5 columns there: project authorizations, expected outside funding sources, outside funding received, complete at September 30th, 25, and the city's remaining committed. This doesn't tie to this schedule that's on page 70 in any form or fashion, but I believe Udil, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there should be a detail that you may have of the city's remaining committed that was used to prepare this table that's on page 100 that may be of interest to City Council.
We do have the commitment detail, and we can provide that if needed.
And I guess after that note, I'm just kind of pointing out significant notes to the financials that have some very good detailed information in those. I'm trying to get to the next note that I wanted to point out. That actually is note 13. Long-term obligations. It's a very lengthy note. That note begins on page 103, and this is a very detailed discussion and presentation of the city's long-term obligations. I just wanted to point that information out to City Council that that's where you can find the long-term obligation or debt of the city. That note actually, I'm just kind of thumbing through the printed copy I have here. That note actually goes on from page 103 through page 122. It's a very detailed note of the city of Amarillo's long-term obligations. I just wanted to point that out to City Council.
Questions, Council? So debt schedule is on page 120. Would that be the summary that we would look at for the total debt schedule of the city?
I would do 122.
122?
Yes.
Okay. If you're taking notes. Questions on the debt schedule, gentlemen?
No, Scott, I would just ask you, why are you pointing this out? Was there a finding or anything in here, or you just pointing this out to just say, hey,
No.
Look at the debt?
Just no finding at all. I just wanted to point that out, is that should be very useful or beneficial information for a city council to look at as they are reviewing this document. That was the only reason I pointed out. It's a significant note to the financial statements.
And I'd also like to add to that, so your investments, your fixed assets, your debt, your cash are all high-risk areas in every audit, and so they're going to be discussed at any audit committee, any presentation.
Great, thank you.
And those really are the main items in your basic financial statements. And then beginning on page 156, you get into required supplementary information. And then certain in supplementary information that just gives a lot more detail of some of the amounts that are in the basic financial statements. I really did not want to spend time on those. I just wanted to point out where those can be found.
So let me ask, is this a good summary of actuals? Is this, when we were going through actuals, this is going to be a really good one, right?
Yes, it absolutely
Okay.
is.
So like page 158, where we're looking at actuals, we'd be able to look at different departments and break down, or at least funds.
On the
Maybe not
revenue side,
departments.
not necessarily. On the expenditure side, yes, you can.
Okay. And that carries on to 159, I believe. Okay. Questions, guys, or we'll keep moving?
And then one final thing I did want to point out, it's not part of this document that is being discussed today. There is a second part of the audit of the city of Amarillo. It is commonly referred to as your single audit, or an audit of your federal and state grant programs. That actually is issued in a separate document, and the single audit is ongoing as we speak.
Okay.
It's not to the point where there is a draft document such as the draft of the annual comprehensive financial report, and that document is always presented separate from the ACFR. Just want to give City Council a status update on where the single audit stands.
Okay, really good. Quick question back on 158, just so I can make sure I'm seeing this right. If we just look at, on 158, if you go down to expenditures on police protection, we look at an original amount of 65 million, then we go to a final amount of 66. Those are our budgeted. Then when you come over to your actual amount of 71 million, then it kicks it over to an actual on budgetary basis. What is the difference on those two? One says 71 million, then one says 71.1.
I'm going to have to go review that table just to make sure.
Okay, well, not to delay time here, then, if I just had any specific questions as going through it, is it okay if I reach out to you, Ms.
Absolutely,
Katrina? I'll
yes.
just reach out to you directly then. Thank you. Scott, you're all yours. You're still driving.
Well, those actually are the main highlights that I wanted to point out in the ACFR. At the very end of this document, there are statistical tables. A lot of very good information in there, but I did want to point out that these statistical tables are not audited, and they're clearly marked at the top of the heading of each of those pages as unaudited.
And I want
So
to add,
I did want to make City Council aware of that. In the statistical section I'm referring to begins on page 287 of this document.
I want to add that that is standard for every audit, that the stats are reviewed but not audited by an audit firm.
And
That is correct. Thank you, Katrina.
unfamiliar with that. So stats, your statistics are what?
It could be anything. It could tell you how many water pipes, small water customers, large water customers. It can tell you average of homes, average property taxes. It's historical data. It just really varies in topics, but it's fantastic information.
Demographic info,
Right,
stuff like
absolutely.
that. Okay, so not necessarily part of the audit, but included in the audit.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, and Mayor Stanley, since the city of Amarillo annually submits this document to the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, for hopeful receipt of their certificate of excellence in financial reporting, the statistical section of an ACFR is a required part of the ACFR. So in submitting this document to the GFOA, that is a required section of this document.
Okay, I understand that. Council, any questions on Scott's overview? No, all good. Councilman Simpson, you okay for a little bit, or you need to?
Well, I've got about 3 minutes before I need to leave, but I do
Okay.
have a couple of questions
Yes,
that
sir.
I'd like to ask. And Scott, hopefully these are yes or no answers. So,
Okay.
And I know this isn't the final report. So if the answers to any of these happen to change when it comes back to the final report, but I'm just saying where we are now, there's some kind of bigger level questions that I just want to get comfortable with. Did you find anything that concerns you?
Concerning as far as I'd say the answer to that is no. The only thing concerning, and it's not really a concern, was just as the city of Amarillo Finance Department worked through using this new ERP system or software system and getting to learn that better. And as Katrina said, it's a great system, but there is a lot of learning involved in understanding that system and knowing what that system is capable of doing. It's nothing of concern. I just wanted to point that out again, that brand new system and learning curve, which again, in large part led to this document being in draft form right now instead of the final version.
Okay.
Other than that, there's nothing concerning that to answer your question in that regard.
Okay. As it stands now, is this a clean audit with no material issues?
Yes, we will render an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion that these financial statements are materially correct. I think we may potentially, we haven't got that document drafted up yet, but include a written comment about a timely and accurate reconciliation and reporting of capital assets, which includes construction in progress.
Okay.
As a recommendation to the city of Amarillo.
Were there any disagreements with management in the report?
There were not.
Were there any significant adjustments that you had to make in the numbers?
Well, I guess adjustments were made as we went through the audit, and Katrina mentioned one, but as we worked together through the audit, and some things just had to be reclassified or regrouped, but no significant audit adjustments that we found.
Okay. Any other indications of fraud, misuse of funds, or irregularities?
No fraud or irregularities that we became aware of. That does not mean that some of those could exist that aren't detected by us, but there were none that were brought to our attention nor detected by CLA.
And if you were sitting in our seat, is there anything that we need to dig into further?
No, I believe just the level of detail that I've seen today at this meeting, and with meetings with Mayor Stanley and the audit committee, just commend you all for the level of detail that you all in review that you put into city's financial reports and so forth. That it's very commendable.
Got it. So just to be clear, make sure no findings, red flags, nothing that should concern us from a financial integrity standpoint.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Simpson, you got anything else? Man, we greatly appreciate you hanging out
Can
a
I-
few minutes after. Yes.
Can I put a caveat? There's no findings on the financial. We do have 3 findings on single audit that will be coming out that we know of, because that's still in process. Those are all process findings.
Yes.
There are not any monetary findings involved in that. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, Katrina. And again, that is separate and apart from the financial statement audit. And I would imagine at a later date, when the single audit is complete, that I will present the single audit to City Council. And the findings that Katrina brought up will be noted in that report at that time. But thank you, Katrina, for bringing that up. That's a good point.
Yeah, so thank you on that, and I need to revisit, thank you, Councilman Simpson. You had said a letter that would include either a recommendation or an observation. Give me the terminology again on that.
Well, it will be, it could possibly be just a verbal discussion on a more timely and accurate reconciliation of capital assets and construction in progress that may be beneficial to city council members if they desire that type of information. And it's my understanding that significant changes in that process have already been implemented. And Mr. Path, if you want to expand on that and maybe talk about the changes that have already currently been implemented in regards to capital assets and construction in progress, that may be beneficial for city council.
I'd be happy to. Yes, Scott and I had a chance to discuss this here. It was about a week or so ago, and yes, one of the things that we've implemented here the last several months is there's a CIP committee, and so we're really encouraging stronger, more timely communication, working through our capital list of projects, working through the history of those, identifying ones that have been completed, we can close out, bring back to you all funds, working backwards as best we can. So yes, that's in progress, and so we do hope that by definitely this time next year, if not hopefully way sooner than that, we'll have a process to where this recommendation will no longer be necessary next year. And so because our goal is to be able to bring to the council more time information. I know, like, even talking to Donnie and Jerry, one of the tasks I have for them is when the council gives a list of CIPs each year, we get them spent. Part of the problem we've had in years past was the CIP list would accrue and accrue and accrue. And so as councils change, as priorities change, councils would direct funds move somewhere, staff direct funds move somewhere. And so now with current council direction and with my direction, we're cleaning that all up. It's much more streamlined, much more direct. And so that's just an ongoing process. It's as you all know, we got lots of other primary jobs, and so this is one of the things that the committee's been working on as a focus, but at the same time, as time allows. But yeah, that's definitely well in motion, and I know talked to Scott about this, and we feel good about the direction we're taking. That you will, again, I don't have a timeline for you just yet, but we hope to be able to bring to you all a much more robust process of information about CIPs and the list and so forth. So.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. And I think, just to reiterate, make sure I think we're saying the exact same thing, Scott. You're saying that you're going to put it in your letter form, and it'll come from CLA, that we needed to have done these things in a more timely and accurate fashion. So what we've done now is Mr. Hooper has changed lots of protocols, and moving forward, we have a much greater handle on how we're doing this. But you, Neil, who you've worked closely with, I believe, you, Neil, that work in progress and those closed CIP reporting form, that work product is finished and complete. Is that correct, sir? Okay. So, Scott, I think if with your recommendation and what we've already done, we'll be able to get that closed out work product from Neil. And then if council has any further need where something doesn't match what you've audited, then you would be able to see specifically and help us walk through that if we weren't interpreting it correctly. And so, council, I would just,
Yeah.
Right, I would just say on the CIPs, we've asked for it as a body. Staff is still completing this. They needed to get through the audit. We should expect it within a week to 2 weeks. Is that correct? You're going to get the construction in progress or capital projects, work in progress, however you want to show it. It'll show every project number. It'll give you a name and a description, location. It'll give you an appropriated amount that was allocated by council. It'll give you an actuals that was spent. It'll give you an amount remaining. It'll show you if it's over budget. UNEIL's form runs that as a total. So at the bottom of all that, you can see, do you as council have any monies remaining that need to be appropriated to future projects? Or did all the projects get completed that we said we were going to do? You're going to see some projects that no longer have a cost benefit analysis. So the project was, let's say, identified in 2020. And the project cost was half or a fourth of what it would cost us today. And so those monies that were appropriated for that need to come back. You've heard staff say that several times. They need to bring that back to council so that you can appropriate that in the right way to go to the next project. Now, the only discrepancy there is somewhere along the way, staff had directed some of those monies inadvertently to go to other projects. So there are transfers. And I just want to ask, in those transfers, those have been identified and you guys have tracked them and CLA's seen them, right?
I think that's, Donnie, if you can speak to that, I think that's still in progress of being identified, I believe.
Still in progress. I mean, we're identifying the transfers that we would have now. We haven't gone back to like 24, 23, 22 and looked at those in detail because that was an accepted practice.
Okay, so the accepted practice back in 21, let's say, was if Project X was awarded $1 million for an appropriations, and then the project didn't go for whatever reason, let's say it's a right-of-way, couldn't get it. Staff would go and utilize that $1 million on a different project without bringing it back to council?
On a different project that had already probably been brought to council on a CIP list that was approved but didn't have enough funding in that project to complete it.
So staff probably told council where the money was coming from in the form of your minutes, and it would have been voted on by council when they awarded the project. Sure. Yeah. So those monies can be tracked. They would have been identified somewhere in there. So, and even at the end of the day, we still have all the appropriated amounts and all of the expenditures reconciled. So even if we didn't know exactly where the money had been transferred, you would know if you had any monies remaining. And I think that's the only thing we're representing here as council is we have an interest in getting every dollar that we've been entrusted with into the community and make sure it's not sitting on the sideline. Key to that's identifying those monies so that you guys can continue to bring things on the agenda that we can push forward. And I know y'all are doing a good job of that. So I look forward to getting the CIP work product from UNEIL and then CLA's engagement in it as well. That's all I have on that. Scott, did you have anything further on CIP?
No, that is everything I wanted to discuss with City Council on the CIP, and really everything I wanted to discuss with City Council is in regards to the audit itself, some of the key highlights within the ACFR itself. I have presented already, and again, if any questions come up during the detailed review by City Council of this draft document, again, I invite you all to, if you deem it necessary, please contact me at any time. I'd be happy to answer the questions or look into the questions to get an answer in the future on those questions.
Really good. I know I just have 2 questions left on my list, but I want to wait and see if anybody has anything else before we move on. So I heard you mention by name the Housing Corporation and the Health Facilities Corporation. So I think those have the same acronym, AHFC. In your report that you gave, it showed borrowed monies and an original issued amount. What I want to make sure of is that the COA doesn't have any obligation to pay those monies, or that they've already been paid. So Ms. Katrina, can you speak to that? Are
One of
those?
them is completely done. It's the larger of the two that is completely done. I think the other one has like 120 some odd thousand. They're not material. And Scott, it's the conduit footnote. I don't know which one that is.
Can you describe?
Well, I am.
18. So originally.
Go ahead, Katrina.
The housing, they were giving loan, and these are back from the 80s. They were giving out loans through the housing program. I can't remember off the top of my head the details on the health facilities, but the $10 million is already paid and done.
So decades ago, $10 million was borrowed through the city on behalf of that organization that was, let's say the board was staffed by the council. They were nominated, they were accountable, but that has all since gone. I noticed it popped up because it's required to be listed.
It is required.
But the amount is less than $130,000 that's owed.
Yeah.
And that entity that owes to pay that amount is still in existence?
It is. The health facilities, we meet once a year in December, and
Okay.
they're on page 42 for their financials. It's
Okay.
not a very large component unit.
I just wanted to alleviate a concern and not have something else to look at, and so thank you for that.
Sure.
My last question, gentlemen, and then we'll move forward with getting this thing filed. I know we had a discrepancy on our sewer and water net starting position, so I wanted to get CLA while they're here to tell me, can you take me to that sewer and water fund, sir, and show me what page that's on?
I'm trying to,
It's 219.
okay,
Now, remember, Mayor, that you're looking at the budgetary cash flows on the reserves of water sewer versus actuals on this.
Right. So what you're telling me, to make sure everybody's hearing it clearly, I was looking at budget numbers that
Absolutely.
might have said, we expect to revenue 110 million. Whether we revenued the 110 or not, that was budgetary. It was a goal, right?
Right.
We could have gotten more or less, but what you're giving me right here on page 220 is the actuals.
Right.
Okay. So
correct.
Okay, so I want to know, can you tell me what our end of year positive or negative was at the end of the year from a cash position? So total revenues less total expenditures. Now, it wouldn't help me for my understanding to have a depreciation that never comes out of the account. So what I would ask for is did the enterprise make money or lose money during that year?
It did. So factoring in depreciation just on the statement, it made 2.8 million. 17.7 is depreciation. So if you back that out, you made 19.
Okay, so the enterprise, and I know government doesn't always work like business, right? And we come at this with a business mindset, but this one actually does. This is a business.
Right.
And so this business grossed 100 million, 100 plus million in revenues, and it expended roughly 80 million, 81 million in expenditures by the time you add in your, I guess you lost $2 million in interest earnings. Was there an adjustment for that?
I'd have to check on what that is.
The interest earnings should have been in a positive, but I see that as a negative, so I'm curious on that one.
Yes, Katrina and I will get together and
I think the brackets are backwards. I think the revenue should be in brackets and the expenses. I'm going to end up in way too many accounting details, but negatives are actually a good thing on
But
that area.
in your opinion right now,
Right.
you're telling me this fund, this enterprise profited, right? Had an excess of $19+ million at the end of the year.
Right.
Okay, so in what we were understanding in how the sewer and water enterprise lost money, so we expected to walk into the money or into the year, what's our minimum reserve in sewer and water, Donnie? Do we need 22 million a year?
I don't have that number with me.
So the minimum reserve that I remember looking back and seeing, I thought was somewhere around 21, 22 million a year. And then we would have put this number on top of it, right? The 19 plus million would have been on top of those reserves that you hold in that account.
Yes.
So when you look at the budget showed that we should have had a net starting position of like 36.9 million. When we voted the budget in, we reduced that down to 7 million. And so I want to make sure that I'm not missing something. I don't know that we lost money in sewer and water.
From a budgetary standpoint, it was just rebalancing, but you didn't lose money in actual.
So we rebalanced the enterprise
Right.
based on something outside of the enterprise?
No, and I'll have to go review the details of what the list was, because it's been a minute since I've seen what the drivers were on that list. You're rebudgeting mid-year for 24 and 25 as you're accepting 25-26 budget.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what I would like to do is I'd like to look back and I'd like to get a justification from the staff on what monies came out of this enterprise to rebalance. Well, I don't know that we rebalance. Like, that's probably not a term that's easily defined. So what I would hear you saying is there were additional expenditures somewhere that aren't reflected on this in this fiscal year report. What were those expenditures? Where did the money go? Why did we end up having to start a budget process and a budget conversation at 7 million instead of the 36? And it really wouldn't even be the 36. I know you could get me the actuals now, but that was just a budgetary number. But there was a loss somewhere in there that we represented on paper when we pushed the budget forward. Otherwise, we would have those monies in reserves that could go into CIP, correct?
Let us look at it.
Okay.
Because I don't want to say yes and be misled, because I need to review what those details were.
Mr. Path, I saw you light up. Did you have anything to add?
No, yeah, I agree. I think we need to regroup, and the focus has been the audit, not the budget. And so let me get Katrina working on that, and we can get Scott's opinion on it as well, and we can be ready more for that for the next time.
And I would offer, I know I brought this previously just with this same concern, and I was told you need to wait on the budget. The budget's going to show that the money is what it, you need to wait on the audit. The audit is going to show that the monies that we budgeted are correct. And so right now I would say that doesn't add up for me. So I would like to sit down with you guys and see if you can show me what the actual starting position should be now with these actuals in that enterprise.
Yeah, again, this wasn't something that we were looking at, something you brought to us, and so, but we can look at it and bring it back at the next meeting, so.
Great. Okay. Scott, you have anything else? Am I seeing that correctly on sewer and water? You see that it profited 2.8 million, plus there's a depreciation aspect there that governments get to acknowledge for some reason, but there's no actual deduction for that.
Yes, I mean, that depreciation expense, in accordance with the generally accepted accounting principles, it's required to be recorded as an expense of the water and sewer fund, but keep in mind that is a non-cash expense that did not actually represent monies or dollars expended during the year.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Kirschneck, on that, and we appreciate the presentation. I know we've drifted a little over our 3 o'clock. We're 3:20. Staff, do y'all have anything else to add? I know I'm ready to see if these guys want to move it forward on a motion. Scott, you don't have anything else, do you?
I have nothing further to add at this point. Thank you, Mayor Stanley.
Greatly appreciate your time. We will let staff work through these items, and then may not need you in person here on the 14th. I know we had talked about bringing you here. You weren't able to get here today, so you're welcome to come on the 14th for that acceptance or approval of that. But if we don't need it, then we can do this in a teleconference form again.
Okay, that sounds great.
Council?
Nope. I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, I do want to clarify the motion, and I think we're all good with it. It's a motion to file in the city secretary's
Correct.
office?
Yep.
Perfect.
So I move to file the City of Amarillo Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Second. I have a motion and a second to file the annual comprehensive financial report draft in the city secretary's office. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Hey, thank you guys for being here today. At this time, we'll adjourn. Thank you all. Scott, really appreciate you. Have a great weekend, sir.